Well, like,
You ready to start?
yes, we're live.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Welcome back again. Welcome to our session, Plenary 9, Grameen America's Black Women Entrepreneurship Program. This will be a conversation between Nobel Laureate Professor Mohammad Yunus and President and CEO of Grameen America, Ms. Andrea Jung, about the development and progress of Grameen America's new initiative to address racial and financial inequality in the US. Through the Elevating Black Women Entrepreneurs Initiative, Grameen America aims to invest $1.3 billion in loans to 80,000 Black women entrepreneurs over the next 10 years. In this session, we're also honored to have with us Ms. Alethia Mendez, the Division President of Elevating Black Women Entrepreneurs, to detail and highlight the critical need for capital in underserved communities. So this will be a power-packed session, and without delay, we will start with a short video. I now request the tech team to play the video, please.
Grameen America, a leading microfinance nonprofit, wants to help close the racial wealth gap. It's committing $1.3 billion in loans to 80,000 Black female entrepreneurs over the next 10 years. Grameen America CEO Andrea Jung joins us right now. She's, of course, also the former chair and CEO of Avon. And Andrea, good morning. It's great to see you today.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on.
So let's talk a little bit about Grameen for people who aren't familiar. This is something that you've been in the business for a long time. The nonprofit has been operating for over 11 years and has handed out a lot of loans already. How does it work?
Yeah, so we are the largest and fastest growing microfinance organization here in the United States. So Grameen America has given out this month, in June of 2021, we will surpass $2 billion of loan capital to nearly 140,000 low income women who will be able to access affordable capital, get training, and be able to asset build with savings as well as build credit scores. And these are things that prior to joining the program, they've basically been not financially excluded. And certainly this past year, in the pandemic and coming out of it in this recovery period, we know that this access to capital is even more important, and the sort of disproportionate inequity in this country has been amplified.
I was looking through the numbers, and it seems to me, if I'm doing the math right, that you've given out more loans, but the average price of those loans has probably gone down. Is that the case? Have you been kind of tweaking how this works and found what maybe is the best ratio?
Well, the average loan is about $4,000. And I think a lot of it is about mix, because what we've been doing is giving out a lot of first-time loans. And those are no more than $2,000 to start. It's approximately $2,000 for a member's first loan, but it goes up quickly. And so some of our largest loans are, close to $20,000. But the very first time that you join the program, we have learned that women want to be able to pay that back within 6 months. Most of them have a good credit score of 650 plus. And many of them have a prime credit score, which is incredible because they've either had no credit score or poor credit scores before coming into the program. So this is an extraordinarily important thing.
If it's a loan of about $2,000, at least for a first loan, what do they do with it?
It's pretty amazing. I mean, I think we have 140,000 stories, because that's probably the number one question people ask me: what can $2,000 or our average $4,000 do? And its extraordinary ability to help them with some working capital, buy inventory, pay their rent. But that $2,000 has moved them in the pathway up and out of poverty in many cases, and to really help establish businesses. So a little bit of capital can go a long way.
Just in terms of
part of this initiative, and why it's so important, is sort of due to that long-standing impact of systemic racism. Especially the Black community has had really insufficient access to even a little bit of affordable capital. And before the pandemic, I think Black women were among the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs. I think they were 42% of new women-owned businesses, which was 3 times their share in terms of the female population. But then the compounding inequity over the past year has really not given them that access, but we find when they do have the opportunity to open their own businesses, their success rate is huge.
Yeah, you mentioned that most of them want to pay this back in 6 months. What kind of loan repayment numbers and statistics can you share with us? How able are they to pay that loan back, and did that change at all during the pandemic?
It's pretty extraordinary, Becky. I mean, it's over 99% has been the historic record. And to be honest with you, we certainly expected with the recovery and rebuild loans that we were giving out during the pandemic that we would see some downfall. But since August of last year, when businesses started to open up, we've seen that same historic rate, over 99% repayment on non-collateral, non-recourse loans. It's been extraordinary. They are truly inspirational, but they needed the capital, they trusted the organization, and that's why we're so excited to be able to, I think through 2030, offer 80,000 Black women entrepreneurs $1.3 billion of loan capital. So we hope that this will do our part in terms of sort of erasing some of that systemic racism that has not allowed and afforded fair capital and equal capital to this community.
I know that you're starting in Newark, New Jersey, New York, and Memphis, Tennessee. Your plan is to branch out. How do you do that, and where do you branch out?
I mean, I don't think there's a major city in the country that doesn't have this need. So we're starting with an intensification in 2021, and again, the New York City area, greater Newark, and Memphis a little bit later as we start the summer. But we've identified communities all across the country, some that we are in already and some that we aren't, but we are currently in 24 cities, soon to be 28, and we see that going to 60 cities over the next several years.
Thank you very much. Now I request Professor Yunus to please take the floor and start the conversation. Professor Yunus, are you able to hear us?
They're trying. Okay, is it okay now?
We cannot see your video. Would you kindly turn the video on?
Okay.
Okay,
All
great.
right. Somehow it disappeared. Okay, we're back. Well, that's a great interview. This is CNBC. What happened again? Disappear?
No, so you're there.
I'm there. Okay. Suddenly I thought I'm done. So this is CNBC that you watch, all of you who are watching this screen. This is a very compact interview that we saw in CNBC. Now we are very happy to have Andrea with us. This will be a very fast interview like the one CNBC did. This will be a very casual, friendly interview, chatting about what is going on in Grameen America, what Andrea is trying to do. So we'll be looking forward to it. And everybody is eagerly waiting to hear you, Andrea, what you have been doing and now what is about to happen with Grameen America, all the things that you mentioned. And those who are not familiar with Andrea, it's already CNBC showed everything that we need to know. She was the CEO of Avon. Avon is a household word throughout the United States and many other countries. It's a beauty product company. Everybody knows about it. And she was the CEO of that company. And at the same time, she is the board member of Apple. Imagine coming from the board, she's still a board member of Apple and board member of the company which owns Mercedes-Benz automobile, who produces Mercedes-Benz. And Andrea is a board member of that company. And then all other Rockefeller and everything, the long list that they were showing on the screen. So that's Andrea. Given that background, everybody is mystified. Why you come from Avon, leave Avon, and come to Grameen America? This is, I'm sure everybody asked that question. We'll ask you that question so that everybody knows what happened, why you came from at the top of the corporate world. You came to a very unknown, tiny little organization called Grameen America, giving little loans, something like $1,000, around $1,000 per person loan and struggling to make a living out of that. So what made you make the decision, Andrea?
First of all, just great to be with everybody and to see all of our friends. So on behalf of everybody at Grameen America, Alethia and I just, we're very honored to be here to just have this casual conversation, to your point, Professor Yunus, about sort of the success of the microfinance program here in the United States. But first of all, two things. One, happy birthday. I will not try and follow Cyrus. No one can, so I can't, but so I won't sing. But happy birthday to you. And
thank you.
I know you saw all the messages from the Grameen America staff around the country, but
wow, that was fabulous. That was
well, they were all
fabulous.
so excited to wish you happy birthday.
Oh no. Oh,
so yes, the question of
every branch joined
every branch. Yeah, they were trying to outdo each other. They were so excited.
It was really fantastic. Thank you so much. And please give my thanks to all of them.
We will. Yeah. Many happy more birthdays to celebrate with you. They're excited. So the question that you asked, why did I choose to come to Grameen America? And I don't think you probably remember this, but years ago when I was leading Avon, and you mentioned that Avon is really one of the world famous cosmetic companies, beauty and personal care public companies. But one of the things that people don't realize about Avon is that about 130 years ago, there was a very prescient man named David H. McConnell, and all of the people selling door to door back in 1886, this was in the United States, before women had the right to vote. Everyone in the industry were men selling encyclopedias, they were selling door to door, but you were not allowed to be selling if you were a woman. And so the very important thing that founded Avon was the fact that this man believed that women should have the opportunity, before they could vote, to be able to be independent and have an opportunity to be sellers and to make a living themselves. And there was a lot of heresy around this. A lot of people didn't feel that women should be allowed to work outside the home. But he pushed forward. And so the very first Avon lady, maybe you've heard about Avon ladies.
Yeah, Avon lady, very famous. Very
first Avon lady was, her name was Mrs. P.F.E. Albee, but most importantly, he hired her with the belief that women's economic independence and empowerment, again, 30-something years before suffrage and voting in the US, was very important. And so the DNA and the heritage of the company was empowering women, first in the US and then around the world, to be able to earn for themselves and to be able to run their own businesses. So that was a very big passion of mine, running the company. And of course, it was a little bit different, but every single Avon saleswoman, the very first order, we lent them that money. They didn't have the money yet. We sort of lent them. We weren't doing microcredit of money, but we were giving them the products. And then after they sold the products, we gave them the opportunity to continue their businesses. And what we saw was that women paid us, they were there was no bad debt. And this was very fascinating. This was true for over 100 years. So I was very passionate about not only the business model, but the fact that we were empowering women for over 100 years as a company. And then many years ago, before I left Avon, I was at a little panel with someone who had written a book called Social Business after he wrote a book called Banker to the Poor. And that was forever changing to me, no different than I'm sure many of you, as someone, as a leader in corporate, business, to understand the power and the responsibility and the obligation of business to find an opportunity to solve social issues. And I felt that we were doing that to some degree at Avon, but it became extraordinarily powerful and inspirational to really study from outside in Professor Yunus's philosophy of social business, of the ability of business skills to actually change the human condition, to change societal issues that government couldn't solve, that other big corporate businesses couldn't solve. So I became, like millions of people, not only a fan, but hugely inspired by your work and how I could be able to play some small role in that. So after I retired from Avon in 2012, we had the unbelievable fortune, you and I, to meet in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's
and
right.
You were telling me about Grameen America, and Grameen America was the best kept secret. I didn't really realize the power that we had already begun in Queens, which was just really, a few subway stops away from where I lived. And so you invited me to go see the program in Jackson Heights, Queens. And I will not ever forget that. I think I met Alethia maybe, very, very soon after that. Alethia is the second employee, first center manager at Grameen America under Mr. Shanawaz. She really was the earliest believer that what people didn't think could happen, microfinance in the Grameen program, could succeed in the United States. She was part of that history, and she'll tell that story better herself, but we're very proud of her. She is the story of someone who started at the bottom and made it all the way up to the top at Grameen America. So she's a brilliant career story for us. But anyway, I went to the Jackson Heights branch and I was astounded, obviously, at the program, at how successful it had been despite a lot of skepticism in the United States. And more importantly, when you asked me to see if I could help and contribute, I felt that it was a calling that really took all of the passion I had for women's economic empowerment, my inspiration. I was so inspired by your vision. Could we make Grameen America the largest social business in America? Could we take this burgeoning example of this replica program that was amazingly successful in New York and had started to be national across the United States and really get it to scale and really do something that people didn't think could happen? And so that was a great personal challenge. You inspired me to say, you can do this. You run a business. You have a passion for women. Maybe small little microfinance organization now, but look at the Grameen Bank. It can be this and bigger in America if you get the right people and believe. And so we partnered, you and I, at the beginning of 2014. It's been amazing that it will be 8 years together this fall that we met and made the decision that we were going to take Grameen America and really show America that the model and the replica program, from what was perceived as one of the poorest countries on earth that has, cracked the code of poverty alleviation through entrepreneurship, through giving loans to women when the formal government system denied them that. That's true in the United States too. And I think together now, as I look at it 8 years later, have really proven that that model has translated brilliantly across the ocean to the richest country on earth. But the richest country on earth has income inequality, has some of the most, I think, prescient issues societally. You've all been watching us. We are certainly in a moment of many, many issues that have been, brought to the forefront through the pandemic, through the focus on racial equity. But all of it really stems from inequality and the fact that the rich keep getting richer, and the poor in America, have not been able to see their way through to a pathway for inclusion and progress. And we're really super proud that Grameen America has not just had a little impact, but now is having a huge impact on poverty in the US, thanks to your vision in 2008. And luckily for me, me reading and meeting you that time at Tina Brown's apartment, and then us being able to get together 8 years ago. It has been a great journey together to build what no one thought could happen. Grameen America, you started in 2008. It was the last crisis. There was not the health pandemic aspect, but we all remember this was a major global debt crisis. And if you were a low-income woman in poverty in the United States before 2008, it was pretty hard to get a loan. And then after 2008, all the banks and the formal banks, they shut down and they became very restrictive. So it was impossible. And the only place that our women could get a loan was really payday lending and very usury loan shark rates, even here in America. And that's when Grameen America came in. And I remember people saying, why would you start a lending program to the non-credit worthy poor in the middle of a global crisis when all the rest of the banks are pulling back? And your philosophy and Alethia's and everybody who started Grameen America at the time was, this is exactly when our members need us the most. This is exactly the moment of crisis in 2008.
Amazing.
When
amazing story.
The poor needed. And, you saw it on the video, but I'll proudly say it again. We will cross $2 billion of loans dispersed in about a week.
Wow.
Professor Yunus,
now, it's really
you were with us about 24 or so months ago. It took us about a little bit over 10 years as an organization, very proudly, to cross the first $1 billion. And it only took us, so it took 10 and a half years to get to the first billion. A lot of hard work, which Alethia will describe. And then this power of scale and success and technology, which I'll talk about. The second billion only took us a little bit more than 2 years. And we will cross $3 billion in the next 18 months. And then it's going to start taking Grameen America less than a year for each successive $1 billion. And by 2030, we believe we will hit well over $14.5 billion of loan capital dispersed to over 630,000 women entrepreneurs. And we've served over 140,000 now to date. But this is the power of, the need. Obviously, the pandemic has accelerated everything that we've always believed in is more needed now by the poor women, particularly poor women of color in this country. But we're extremely proud that the replica program that you dreamed of in the United States 12 years later has become the only microfinance organization to become sustainable. We are over 100% all-in sustainable in 2021. Our goal was 2020. We are almost there, and the pandemic hit. So we stopped charging interest during the pandemic for our members for a period of time. So we lost 1 year on that, but this year already through June, we are more than 100% sustainable, the only microfinance organization in the United States, growing, as I said, $1 billion of loans dispersed, every couple years, or soon to be every year.
18 months,
and
1 year.
It's been an amazing journey. It's been a lot of hard work, but I would just say that it is proof that the vision, the issue, unfortunately, is true even in the richest nations. So I say to all of you who, are in Europe and in the first world, developed markets, New York, the richest financial capital of the world, the issue is deep and as problematic as it is anywhere in the world. And that is that if you are low income, don't have a good credit score, it's impossible to get on that cycle. The formal capital system shuts you out. And the only solution, unfortunately, is not government solution. We can talk more about that later. It hasn't yet been a government solution. So Grameen America, in our case, really is the only scale and large solution to being able to bridge this gap, sir.
Thank you. It's an amazing story. Everything you said, it's unbelievable. It's a fairy tale kind of a story. But to keep the record straight, I must mention something for the audience. When you agreed to accept the job running the Grameen America, we tried to get an idea how much you'll be charging us for that, how much salary we have to pay. You proposed an amazing amount. We are shocked how you could even say that. You remember that? You wanted $1 a year. We were all shocked. And that's what it was. And you started your work with Grameen America for $1 a year. Ever since, we tried to bring it up in the board meeting to review that and how strongly you resisted such effort to make the change in that negotiation that we made early on. And why did you do that?
Well, I'm hoping maybe you guys will double my salary to $2 in my second decade.
Okay, we'll consider.
Why did I do that?
We'll have a committee made.
Special board meeting for that.
Special board meeting for that.
You know, I think at this point in my life, I realize that it's a privilege, really, to find, it's not even a vocation, it's a passion to be able to make a societal difference and be able to use all of my experiences for the last many decades. The most precious thing that I feel I can give is experience and my time. And if, you know, we talk about paying it forward, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've had, you know, a very long and it was an amazing career in the for-profit sector. But I have to tell you that I felt like there was nothing better that I could do with my time and my experience. And for the dollars that I would have maybe taken as a CEO, for me, it was more important to use that money to hire more center managers, to be able to invest in technology, to be able to, you know, for every center manager that we hire in the US is, you know, $35,000 plus benefits, but they are Grameen America. They own the relationships with our members, and each one of them changes themselves 450 to 500 lives every single week. And for them, which is that, you know, that's still not a huge amount of salary, and we're adjusting it every week. You know, that I see what they do every single week. It's so unbelievable how much time and commitment and passion they have to serve and meet and talk to, now on Zoom, 500 members. And so I thought, let's just pay them some more money and find more of them, because they're the ones actually touching the members. I'm trying to help with the strategy, make sure the organization, but who's really changing the lives are our center managers. So I wanted to kind of donate what would have been my salary to make sure they were able to be paid well enough.
You mentioned something about technology, that you focus on technology. Can you say something about what kind of technology you tried to bring in, and because of the pandemic, how you use the technology
Absolutely.
to assist the problem that's created by the pandemic and so on? Everybody will be curious to know.
The journey has been long, and my headline piece of advice to all of my peers and friends is to fix the roof when the sun is shining, to make those investments before you have to, because it really paid off for us in the pandemic. But if I go all the way back, the simplest way of saying it, Professor Yunus, is that I you know, and every country I know is different. And Grameen Communications was a huge supporter of getting us to this place in our early days. But when I came and went to my first center meeting, everything was cash. So members were giving $63 of cash to a center manager, and the center manager was taking that money and walking across the street to the bank, Citibank in some cases, to deposit. And when I joined, there were 4 incidents within 3 weeks of theft and danger to our center managers, because people started to know where Grameen centers were happened. And one of our center managers was accosted and robbed. Thank goodness she wasn't killed, with $7,800 in cash in an envelope in her purse in the Bronx. And so this was not safe. So we were handling cash, number one. And then everything we had a paper. I went into our Jackson Heights branch, and there were, I don't know, Alethia, 60 huge boxes, the half of the branch, which is boxes and boxes of member files, loan documents, because nothing was digitized. Yeah. And my experience was that it was critical. And then the third issue, very specific to the US, was rising privacy and data security laws that said that we really had to be very careful with the data of each member and her payments, and that, you know, you saw some for-profit companies getting into large problems and fines because they weren't protecting the data privacy. So it became very clear that we needed to have a technology solution that allowed us to take away all paper. I mean, if you just said, what was the strategy? No paper, no cash, total US regulations adhered to on privacy. Those were the 3 mandates. No fancy 20-page technology strategy. That was it. No paper, no cash, 100% security of our members' information in order to be able to scale in the United States. And so the journey was, long but successful, and we found partners to invest in a cloud-based system solution that allowed us to then give all of our center managers who used to use passbooks iPads, allow every single member to get a text receipt, of what her payment was and when she made that payment, and allowed the platform for a lot, which I can talk about, of more technology opportunities and advances that have happened since that time. So it was about a 2.5-year journey to enable all of this digital remote ability. When the pandemic hit, we never imagined the pandemic, just like the rest of you. But in February of 2020, when there were some cases in Seattle, and we don't have a branch yet in Seattle, but we got together and said, wow, we have 2,600 center meetings going on every single week. And there are 30 women, in our case, in small living rooms, basements, little businesses, and they're not sitting 6 feet apart. They're sitting next to each other, chair to chair. What are we going to do? So in 3 weeks, we developed a strategy to turn the entire Grameen America operation virtual and digital. So starting with center meetings, we have 2,600 virtual Zoom center meetings like this. And every week, our members attend this way. And the attendance is important. They have to obviously have the repayment discipline. But it was amazing because it allowed them to stay connected to each other. And first, we just did it audio, phone, and then we introduced the video capability. And as soon as they saw each other, they were like, oh, Lamia, I haven't seen you. I mean, in that very difficult time, it kept them connected to their friends. As we know, the social safety net of groups and centers at Grameen, we were able to replicate that overnight. So in the beginning, and I know Professor Yunus and several of the people on this call have attended, just been able to pop into one of our Zoom virtual meetings. But in the beginning, it was quite chaotic. Passcodes, put the phone on mute, children crying in the background. I mean, our members have never used this kind of technology, but we taught them how to do it. And today we have over 90+% attendance. Everybody is attending. In some branches, which Alethia can talk about, it's even better virtually. And there's been no quality erosion on repayments. And it has allowed us to continue the engagement and the sharing of what's happened. So the technology from that point of view for our center meetings is now on Zoom. But everything from the disbursements to the repayments, we have really taken advantage of very modern digital opportunities. So we used to give a check to a member, $2,000, here's your loan. You go, the member went across the street to the bank, has to cash it, et cetera. Now we either have a disbursement card. We partnered with MasterCard, but it is a Grameen America card, like a debit card. And the loan is automatically loaded onto that card, but she doesn't have to show it to us. We know her card. So during the pandemic, just with one push of a button in 30 seconds, we had a Zoom, disbursement ceremony, but then 30 seconds later, without having to see her, the money was loaded onto her card. Or in a growing number of cases, we directly deposit it to her bank account. And what I feel so good about is, about 2 years ago when we started this, a lot of people said, well, our members don't have they don't have bank accounts. They just need the card or the cash. They don't have bank accounts. And we started off projecting that 10% of our members would have bank accounts so that we could just send the loan directly into their account. And it's going to be 60% of the quote unbanked, not formally banked that we thought, have learned with us and through our Grameen to actually to open a bank account and be able to accept the money. So the money goes directly, so we don't have to touch any hands. And then the repayments are cashless, and the system is, amazing. So we have totally digitized the entire process of Grameen. And the last thing I would say, technology-wise, that I was very worried about was recruiting new members during this time, because as those of you who operate the Grameen replica program know, it's very important to have group recognition, for our
Physical contact.
managers to have the physical contact, to visit the homes, we do everything from home visits to business visits to all on Zoom. So they're taking their iPad and showing us the photo of their children on the living room. But now
you opened even a
has
branch.
been in a very difficult time. The US is open now because the cases are low, and all of the governors and the states have opened up the economy. So we are resuming physical recruiting in the community. But for the whole, last few months, we were able to recruit over 5,500 new members virtually. And we opened two new branches.
Two new branches.
We opened Chicago
virtually.
And also Trenton and Camden, which is in southern New Jersey, virtually, which is amazing, because whoever thought, we never thought we would open a virtual branch. But all of this is to say that without technology and having that ready, we could have never done it in 2 weeks. I mean, it took us 3 years. It was ready. Thank goodness. We never dreamed of the pandemic, but luckily the infrastructure was there so that when the pandemic hit, we lost 2 days. We shut the operation to convert for 2 days, but a lot of microfinance organizations I know that I've read about in India and around, they had to pause. Where so much money movement happens, they were forced to pause with stay-at-home orders by Modi, et cetera, but we didn't have to pause. And the number one reason we didn't have to pause was technology.
So in 12 years, you came here. Now you talk about $1 billion a year kind of picture. What do you see in the next decade, for example? Which direction? You have such an amazing thing that you have done in the first 12 years. And is there anything left?
There's a lot left. Why is there a lot left? Because, there are 21 million, people living in poverty. I mean, it is there, and most of them are women, and we have barely scratched the surface, sir. I think the one thing that has happened now is that Grameen America is being noticed for our ability to scale and make impact. I think there are quite a few microfinance organizations in the United States. They're all very good. I mean, even if you serve 100 people, there's 100 people who got a loan. That's a good thing. But I think what's being noted is the scale. I mean, when we say we're going to serve 633,000 women, and in the communities that we've served, I use Jackson Heights as an example. We've served almost 80% of the target of women who are in poverty who need a loan. 80%. And the lowest, I think, is 40%. So the penetration wherever we are is unbelievable. People cannot believe, because if you go to Jackson Heights, as you have, every other storefront is a Grameen member, because the word of mouth, it's like, did you go to Grameen? Come to Grameen. It's every going up and down the street, every business knows Grameen, because we have become the bank to the poor in the United States.
Now
so
you're
we
talking
have
about
24 branches. We want to go to 52 branches. I mean, that you've challenged me to go to more, 100. But we're trying to be pragmatic. So conservatively, we've said 52 branches, which is more than double. We are going this year to San Antonio and Dallas. We are also going to Connecticut, the state of Connecticut, at the end of this year. And then we are looking at Atlanta, Georgia. Funny, because that's where you and I met to talk about this. But there are just so many more opportunities. So we intend to go to 52 branches. We will be close to $14 billion by 2030. The portfolio outstanding for everybody in US dollars will be over $500 million, $561 million of outstanding portfolio, which, as you know, generates a tremendous amount of interest income. It's 125 million now, but our total assets will be 730 million. And we will be more than sustainable as of this year, every single year. What this says is this is a viable financial institution, sure. Healthier balance sheet than a lot of banks. Wow. And we have the scale now to be able to attract very significant donors. When I came to Grameen America, it was a very, very big day for us if we got $100,000 gift, philanthropic grant. That was a big gift. 50,000, 100,000. We just got a $25 million donation to Grameen America from Mackenzie Scott, who is the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos of Amazon. She's very philanthropic. But the reason that we got that big a gift was because they knew we had the capacity, the capability to deploy, that we had scale. And that, I think, we know that we can make a nice difference, but we want to make a scale difference in America, which means really move the needle on poverty. We have to change the course of poverty.
Also now you are moving into that $1.3 billion that we just talked about.
I will let Alethia speak about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but just quickly on that, I would say that so many things have gone right, and I guess to all of my colleagues, just so that we keep this very authentic and transparent, we have had many, many successes, and it's easy to just list off every single thing that Grameen America has done well. But, like every other organization, we are pretty, not hard on ourselves, but we take a hard look at what we also are not doing well, or where we feel that we need to improve. Okay. And so, as everyone knows, America is a country of many different races and different ethnic cohorts. And our program, after 12 years, has been nothing but brilliantly successful with the Latina or Hispanic, particularly immigrants. We have been, from the numbers, you can see, just exploding growth-wise. And the program is extremely relevant and very successful. And the repayment rate is close to 100%. The engagement's great, the retention is great. So everything has worked beautifully for the Hispanic members. But before the pandemic, we were really questioning why we had not been able to achieve the same success and scale with Black women entrepreneurs in the United States. And we wanted to understand what the maybe structural issues, societally were, why they did not embrace the Grameen program or microfinance in general the same way. And also what specifically about Grameen America and our program was making it not as engaging as it was for Hispanics. And so I would not say that we had a huge success there. The members that we did have, we had some great members who had phenomenal repayment rates, but they were small, like in the hundreds instead of the tens of thousands. And so the scale was nowhere near the same. So we undertook a very, very important piece of work, because of course, sometimes it's just easier to do what you do well, just keep expanding
feel comfortable.
There's so many more Latina and Hispanic immigrants in the United States. We could have just kept going with a track record. We know how to do that. But I think I was proud of the team that we decided to say, we are not succeeding here and we need to succeed here. We cannot just be a microfinance organization and the banker to Latina poor. We are here to be the banker to the poor, and that includes Black women who particularly are disadvantaged. And this has certainly been highlighted. I mean, and there has been generations of structural inequity in the financial sector that has disadvantaged racially this segment. So I'll let Alethia speak a little bit in a minute about what specifically we're doing differently, but it is still Grameen. It is still Grameen America. We feel like it is, but that there are some changes we had to make. And, those things are hard because we're so used to doing things now 12 years later. And the organization thinks we are successful. So it's almost harder to force yourself to acknowledge where you need to, where you're not so perfect. But I'm proud the organization has taken this on. So we're committing another $1.3 billion to Black women entrepreneurs to reach 80,000 of them, which will be from hundreds now to 80,000. Yeah. So big, bold ambition.
Big ambition. Yeah.
And it won't be easy. You and I have talked about this. I have no question that we're going to learn a lot and we will make some mistakes. But we made mistakes in the beginning of Grameen America too, but we just kept pushing, just kept trying to figure it out. And I think that mentality of testing it, learning, changing, acknowledging it, those are important reasons that we've grown, I think. We have not done everything perfectly.
Thank you. Shall we now call Alethia?
Absolutely. And before I call Alethia, perhaps just to give you an idea, because we're talking about Black women entrepreneurs during the pandemic, can I just cue a video which gives you a little bit of
please.
These are some of our members in Harlem who are in the Black American community. And so when you look at this and how much Grameen has impacted them, that's what gives us inspiration that we can affect 80,000 women like this, okay?
Nice. Okay, good. Is it running?
Yeah. What makes me feel special about having a business in Harlem is the support of the community. That's what I look forward to when I come to Harlem. My name is Sheila Black, and I am the owner of Laiha, a mobile boutique selling our wares. I started my business right on 125th Street, 50 feet away from the famous Apollo Theater. Grameen America are involved with women entrepreneurs here in Harlem, where they provide financial assistance for women to grow their business. Pandemic affected not only my business, but everybody's business. They allowed us to still take out loans. They gave us another, which is a recovery loan, which helped a lot of women. One of our outstanding members is Monet, the owner of Hair Hut, which is located on 125th Street.
It's actually a blessing to have a business as a minority woman in Harlem. When I first started, I only had 3 people that worked here, and now we have 6 employees and an assistant. They helped me to continue to educate myself on maintain my business properly in the proper organization, how to build myself in other areas where I didn't have knowledge before I came into Grameen America. During the lockdown, we were completely unable to operate, but because of the support that they give us, I had a lot of resources to reopen.
Businesses are undergoing so much duress now during the pandemic. What has happened now was the urgent need to go remote, to go cashless, to have an entirely new virtual operating model. We've seen our members able to quickly pivot and leverage their own community as a way to keep their businesses running. I think that would not have been possible without MasterCard's investment over the years and their continued commitment on bringing women entrepreneurs into the digital economy. This is the population that now requires more attention and more access to capital. Grameen has a very unique model through which we provide access to capital. You don't need to have a previous credit score, you don't need to have collateral, you don't even need to have a physical storefront for a business. All that it relies on is social capital, which is there someone else that can give their word for you? So Lenise and Janine actually have a very interesting story and history with their business transformation.
We didn't know about what capital was out there for us. You would go to the bank, we don't have enough collateral, we don't have enough history to obtain a loan from the bank. Grameen came in and was like a lifesaver, honestly.
Not only did they give you $1,500, they report back to the credit bureau. So if you're a person who didn't have no established credit, now you're establishing credit. Now we could go to the banks and feel confident like, yeah, we got this business that we trying to go for.
We have Young Excellence Society, which is our nonprofit organization, which is right here, Yes Academy, which is our year-round program where we work with at-risk youth.
So we was like, what else can we do? We're vegans, we like to eat, we like to cook. So we started Vegan Hood.
Yeah. Veganhood was pretty much birthed during the corona pandemic. Veganhood allowed us to offer 100% plant-based food. We were able to reopen, providing PPE for the center. Because of Grameen, us and other businesses are able to thrive and maybe even sustain and get capital from funders during this time.
Economic development in the near future is going to come by bringing these large folds of otherwise untouched populations into the digital economy. And that's going to have a ripple effect as a whole for communities and cities and states and nationally as well.
Just to know that there's other centers with other women that look like you, starting business or in business is amazing.
When more people see more women of color with businesses running and owning and living independently, that empowers not only the community, but the world.
Professor Yunus, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Okay. Am I unmuted now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you. No, I said it's a beautiful documentary on the Black American entrepreneurship that we are talking about. So this would be a good time to bring Alethia to talk about this. Okay, Alethia, can you come in and join us in this conversation? I don't see Alethia in my screen.
I'm here,
okay.
Sir. Good morning.
Okay, you are here. Alethia is a hero of Grameen America. She was the first center manager of the first branch in 2008. So it's a long story. This is what the Grameen America is. Her story is the Grameen America history. So let's see what now she's taken the challenge now, and Andrea has given her the challenge to take this difficult task, quote unquote difficult, at least to be difficult. For her, maybe she feels it's very easy. That's not a big deal. See what Alethia is. How did you begin? First, briefly, you tell us so that everybody knows where you began. You had no idea what Grameen Bank is, what this is going to do. Suddenly, you are asked to do something, and you thought it's crazy or something. Can you briefly tell us before you go into the next one?
Professor Yunus, you remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, you've been driving cars and telling all the story. What a terrible thing you have to do.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm happy to be here with you, sir, and Angie at the Social Business Summit and with all of our colleagues around the world here. And I've had the privilege to lead and innovate the Grameen Microlending Program operations at Grameen America. And most recently, as you've noted here, managing our newest Elevating Black Women Entrepreneurs Initiative. It's been about 13 and a half years now. It's been a 13 and a half year journey since I joined Grameen. And as the first center manager then, forming those first groups to kind of break the ice, I would say, as I used to describe it, has been really amazing and fulfilling in a way that I would have never, nor could I have ever imagined at that time. So when I started, as you remember, even though over 13 years ago,
Yes.
also just learning about microfinance, I was learning about the Grameen model. I was a student of psychology and French language and literature in college. So I was not in economics, I wasn't in finance, and I didn't actually know about the Grameen model, Grameen Bank, you, and everything that was happening around the world. And when I came to meet Mr. Shah at that time and hear about the Grameen model, I was stunned at what was firstly going on around the world, that here in the United States and in New York City, that that program had come to us and come here. But I will say that I was skeptical. I learned and heard about the modeled the group lending approach and how we were going to be able to provide microloans to women by forming a group, and how important the Grameen Group of Five was. And I grew up in New York City. I grew up in Queens, and I lived in a building on the second floor of a six-story building. And I saw how people could live in the same place, even the same building, and not as much as say hello to each other. So I wondered how this idea of trust and common building and coming together would manifest itself in New York City when everybody was living like I was in these buildings that didn't necessarily speak to all of their neighbors. But I was pleasantly surprised. And I found myself, and of course, as we started to grow, realizing one, how much the power of community was within my own backyard, how many people were connected, and how many people just genuinely and naturally wanted to support their neighbor, wanted to support their friends and family, and how together they can make a difference and make a change for themselves, for their families, and for the local economy. So firstly, I think I got to experience what I would say firsthand, the trials and tribulations that people, particularly women and families, were facing in my backyard, right? In New York City and in the communities around New York City where we started. I used to make a plan every day to pick which neighborhood I was going to go to and how I was going to try to speak with anyone who I might have seen engaged in some entrepreneurial activity. Those might have been women who were selling food from a little shopping cart, or those who were selling ice cream, or those who might have been selling different accessories or products, sometimes just on a blanket on the street corner. And I found that I would even go into different hair salons and nail salons on the main streets just to introduce myself and the Grameen program. But of course, what I was confronted with, I don't know if I was necessarily prepared for at the time, but I saw very quickly that people didn't want or even know how to receive or believe in an opportunity that might be given to them, even if it was staring right in front of them. I was right in front of them, ready to give an opportunity to receive a microloan, opportunity to receive some financial resource, and nobody was ready to receive it. And I was told on many occasions, especially in the beginning, no. And I was asked even whether this program was associated with the mafia, because no one was providing loans without expecting some form of collateral or without charging very high amounts of interest. So it was very difficult for those who were hearing me and seeing me to accept the opportunity that was in front of them. It was also even difficult for those who did give me the time, even if it was just a few minutes to explain the program, to understand and accept the group concept. Many were uncomfortable with the idea of having to pull together with other people and be a part of a cohort of other women. I remember one of them saying to me that I've never had any help from anyone. I've been alone and I'm going to continue to be alone. So this was the mindset that I was faced with, and that I learned very quickly. I don't think, having had that experience, learned very quickly how ingrained this challenge was in the mindsets of not one person, but of whole communities, of whole populations, even because they've never had that access. So of course, after these experiences, right, I wasn't very confident about whether or not we would be able to run this program, whether we would be able to connect with the people, connect with women. And I wasn't sure how, and I've been caught on camera saying this, so I can't hide it. But I really thought, well, I think this is going to be quite difficult. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be able to work as I heard about it so beautifully in Grameen Bank and around the world, if it was going to be able to work in the United States.
Thank you. Just a second, let me talk to Zinat. How much time we have? So
Sir, we are almost reaching time, but we can, of course,
can you give some extend some time?
Of course.
How much time you can give us so that we know? What
5 to 10 minutes max.
5 to 10 minutes, max of 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes. So we will. Thank you, Zinat.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. So let's talk about the Black Entrepreneur Program, Black Women Entrepreneurs Program that you are now in charge of. How you, given the experience in the early years, is this something repeating that same experience, start from zero, not knowing what it is, or is the same thing? This is just a kind of a change of location or something. Where are you now? What kind of position you are holding? Is it something threatening? Something, oh, not that bad.
Well, I think number one, I'm feeling two things. Number one, I think that there are, in many ways, there are a lot of similarities as we go in and into this new initiative in working with and extending our financial access to Black women here in the United States. In many ways, the Black women and Black communities are facing some of the same realities of being in the low-income and underserved communities. And that's still a big challenge for all women of color in the United States, irrespective of race, but particularly in the Black communities, they continue to have insufficient access to loan capital. They continue to be left out of any of the systems that would provide the support and resources. And it is unreal to see that, because what we've seen is that in the Black community, they're also quite entrepreneurial. And we've seen from the success that's already been reached by the Grameen program in our Hispanic and Latin and immigrant communities, that this population, low-income women, can be entrepreneurial, and how much success with just a little bit of investment can be done. So what we saw with the Black community was that even before the pandemic, as Andrea mentioned, Black women were some of the most fastest growing demographics of entrepreneurs in the United States, with 42% or over 42% of them being women-owned businesses. So as we go into this initiative, my hope and vision is that we will be able to achieve some of the same successes, innovate and adapt the current successes of the Grameen model here in the US to better serve these Black women and these communities, and show that the current barriers that deem these women uncreditworthy, like existing very high and existing debts that they have, sometimes from student loans or other personal debt that they may have, differently maybe than some of the immigrant women that we've worked with in the past, as when they joined the program, they've never had credit in the United States. In the Black communities, this serves as a huge barrier for them being considered creditworthy and getting that access. So we're looking to see and show that that current barrier really is unnecessary and it's incorrect. It does not mean that they cannot be creditworthy and they cannot be responsible as good borrowers. With kind of a tailored financial education program and a technical assistance, as well as hoping to leverage these small networks of like-minded women that are going to be a part of their groups and along the same journey, coupled with the power of the microloan. Our intention is that this can be a solution and an engine for change, not just for each individual woman, but to the systemic racial and gender discrimination that has been a part of the financial system around the world and even also in the United States.
You sound very positive. I'm very happy about that, that you feel positive about it. But I just want to remind you that it's only 3 years, 80,000 borrowers to be reached, isn't it?
So yes, thank you, sir. In the first 3 years, what we intend to do is aim to reach about 6,000 Black women entrepreneurs across new as well as existing Grameen operating geographies. And hopefully during that period, we'll be able to see and measure whether there are some material positive outcomes, such as improvements or growth around business revenue growth, credit scores, savings discipline, and as well as, of course, measuring our path to financial sustainability. But hopefully those 3 years, just like as we did in the beginning at Grameen America in 2008, we will use those 3 years as the proof of concept, right? So aiming to prove that we can adapt this model also within the Black communities, within the Black American communities, as we've done, and match or meet some of those successes that we've done in Grameen America for this community as well. Hopefully that will lay the foundation for over 10 years for us to reach over 80,000 women.
You're as stubborn as ever, and as optimistic as ever. We wish you luck. I will ask Andrea about it, how she sees it, that whole thing can be managed. And what is the most critical thing that you see? Just last question to you, Alethia. What is the most critical thing that you'll be needing as your support to make it happen? What the tool that you'll be using or what strategy you'll be using?
Yes, so a few things. Of course, number one, we have been fortunate, given the successes of the Grameen program, the Grameen America program, to have financial support and investment, because just as when we started the first time, it requires significant financial resources and investment to build up this program. And with the help of philanthropy and private investments, we've been able to do that. So that is, we are able to do that. And we hope that those types of investments will continue so that we can realize this vision and this plan. Secondly, as a part of this strategy, because it really is a learning process that we will be doing. I think that the first time I did it, I didn't realize what I was learning and what I was doing. Now I'm aware of what the result of that learning can be. And so I'm optimistic and feeling excited about taking on this new journey and now coming into it with the experience and understanding really about what I'm doing. That strategy will look like and incorporate 3 key areas I would first describe. Number one, because we recognize, similarly to my story in the beginning, the very strong distrust that is part of the community. It's no different with the Black American community. And maybe, and one could argue or make a case that that distrust is even stronger given the thousands and thousands of years in the United States inequities that this community has faced. We will try to leverage and work with local organizations and partners that already may have an established relationship to be the connector of Grameen America to the people. And so we will learn about how that building that relationship can work, how leveraging that may actually foster and cultivate the relationship and connection between Grameen America and as well as with the community.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Andrea, can you conclude? Yeah. In 1 minute, because
I just give you less than 1 minute my concluding thoughts here. I'm sure that, decades ago, when the Grameen Bank was a vision, there was skepticism of whether or not it would work. If I fast forward to 2008, there was skepticism
would Grameen work in America?
In America, yeah.
A lot of people who thought no. And right now there are people who are asking, will Grameen work with Black American women? And each successive time, this would be the third, certainly in the history that I'm talking about.
That's it.
I think the concept is rising. Grameen can work anywhere, okay? Not without a lot of work, though. You've got to be able to tell the story, get people behind you from an investment point of view, and you have to put the right people against it. I will just end with one thing. The last branch that we opened, this is not about a Black American branch, but we opened Houston, Texas, just right before the pandemic. It's already 100% sustainable. Wow. It is our fastest growing branch. We used to take 5 years. It's taken 2. Why? The branch manager. Over the 12, 13 and a half years, the number one thing we have built is experience and people who care about the program, who understand their practitioners, they understand the methodology, they understand the power of it, and they're willing. Even in the second year of Houston, they couldn't even reach anybody. So usually when a branch, it takes a couple years to get it 3,000, 4,000 people. Our branch manager there, just 1 year into being, had a pandemic, couldn't meet anybody. And he has been probably the best, Alethia would agree, at dealing with the pivot to virtual. But I think you've got great people who care about the program. There isn't a single country or a single population where Grameen and this concept of the opportunity through microfinance to change the lives of the poor and create a social business can't work in America or anywhere in the world. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. That's my last thought.
We don't want to stop this conversation, but we have to. It's you have inspired so many people today with this conversation. Everybody will be running to start a Grameen program somewhere after what you have said, what you have done. You and Alethia, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. We are very, very grateful to you for making this contribution. And if we could applaud you, we'll do it right here. But in the virtual, sorry, we cannot do it together. But we really, really very inspired by what you said. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a nice rest of the session. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Zinat, are you happy now? It's done?
Yes, you've made it in time. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you very much, sir, for being with us throughout the day. A big thank you to all the attendees joining from all over the world. Now we would like to play a video. Unfortunately, due to a technical glitch, it may have not played properly, but we would like to play it again. So I request the IT team to please play the video.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nana. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy 81st birthday.
Wow, look at that. It's wonderful. Thank you, Cyrus.
Thank you very much for playing that video. We've had a long day and we have many more sessions coming up. So I would like to hand it over to my colleague Urmi to wrap up the session now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gina, for handing it over to me, an officer at Yunus Center, and I am delighted to be part of this very special occasion. Today, we have had some wonderful sessions, from keynote addresses by the inspirational Mr. Narayana Murthy and Mr. Peter Holbrook, where Mr. Peter mentioned that in these uncertain times, to exciting plenary sessions such as social business experiences from around the world, and one about the powerful Nobel new entrepreneur equity program. Even the brilliant Grameen America plenary that we had just a few minutes before allowed to us emphasize on the importance of the role of women in the world. Entrepreneurship programs such as these are very needed in the world we live in today, and this discussion has stressed on the same. For now, we are done with all of the program schedule that was planned for today. Next, we will be having an interesting part of this event, our Country Forum sessions. To everyone present with us now as audience, you may join your respective country forums after this announcement that will continue until 30th June 2021. I am here to inform you with some details related to the country forums. As you may know, this year we have 15 country forums, from a China forum to one for the Francophone countries, from an Australia forum to a Brazil forum. Country forums have been designed to inspire conversations and discussions in countries where there is a strong social business ecosystem. Country forums will begin after this announcement and will continue till 30th June 2021, 13 hours Kampala time, 16 hours Dhaka time, and 10 GMT to facilitate. During this time, each country forum may host several sessions in their own platform to address the several topics they care the most about. And each country forum will be conducted in its own language. Each country forum will have to produce a report on July 2nd, 2021 during the closing session of Social Business Day 2021. A selected representative from each country forum will speak and present the report on behalf of their respective country forum. All participants of the country forum are highly encouraged to attend the report back session so that everyone can actively engage in the interactive and exchange of ideas. These are the country forums we have this year: Bangladesh Forum, Eastern and Southern Africa Forum, Brazil Country Forum, Thailand Country Forum, Malaysia Country Forum, India Forum, Nepal Forum, China, Australia, Philippines, Japan Country Forum, Europe, North America, Latin America, Francophone Countries Forum. Our best wishes to all the country forums. We look forward to listening to your thoughts and ideas during the report back session. If anyone wants to participate in these sessions, please visit our Social Business Pedia to find out how and to learn more information about all the participating country forums. We would like to end by informing you that due to the country forums event, our event platform will open tomorrow, 30th June at 13. Our most interesting session on 30th June, which we hope everyone attends, is the Engaging Plenary COVID-19 Vaccine as a Global Common Good at 13:45 to 15 Kampala, 16:45 to 18 Dhaka, and 10:45 to 12 GMT. Make sure to check out the schedule to know more. Good night, good afternoon, and good morning, according to wherever in the world you are right now. We hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you.